Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm audible, and we have to start today's event. Uh, Thank you so much for being with us this morning. As we all know that the Institute of Social and Cultural Studies as an autonomous organization for over a decade has been addressing the history as well as the contemporary through various national and international events, publications, and regular writings. Thus, as a part of our endeavor, we bring to you today's international web based symposium on the Indian Ocean security challenges and strategies. We would like to thank University of Mumbai and Jawaharlal Nehru Rajkiya Mahavidyalaya JNRM Port Blair for extending support and collaborating with us for today's initiatives. It's a pleasure for us to have our Honorable Minister of Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan with us as a part of Institute's endeavor and as well as in the inaugural session. We have distinguished guests and other distinguished speakers who are part of today's seminar with us, who have already joined us. So it's time for us to start. Uh, I would start with the welcome address. I would like to welcome our Honorable Director of the Institute, Shri Arindam Mukherjee, with us. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us this morning. I would like to welcome Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, Honorable Minister of Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. It's an honor and a pleasure for the Institute as well as its collaborators to have you at the inaugural session of the proposed initiative. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. We have Dr. Shakti Sinha, Honorary Director, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Policy Research and International Studies with us. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. He's the keynote speaker for today's event. Thank you, sir. And of course, we have Professor Suhas Pednekar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai with us. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Um, Before we proceed, gentle request, participants who have joined us, I would request to please keep your microphone on a muted mode unless and until you are asked to speak. This is for the audience. We would like to proceed with our today's conference. I would like to request our Honorable Director, Shri Arindam Mukherjee, for his welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Konkona. Namaskar. Respected Sri Dharmendra Pradhanji, Honorable Minister, Department of Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Professor Subhas Pednekar, Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai, Dr. Shakti Sinha, Honorary Director, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Policy Research and International Studies, and Mr. Gautam Chakraborty, Editor, Sagar Course. Distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you. Today, we have assembled here to participate in a meaningful disquisition on Indian Ocean Rim region titled Indian Ocean Security Challenges and Strategies. We all know that oceans play a very significant role that has a direct bearing of human life with wide socio-economic, political, and strategic implications. The Indian Ocean is one of the three biggest oceans in the world, and this region arguably today matters more than ever. The Indian Ocean region consists of 28 states, spans across the continents, and covers 17.5% of global land area. These 28 countries include 21 member countries of IORA. In 2027, this region has home of 35% of world's total population of 2.6 billion people. It is a major conduit for international trade, especially energy. 40% of world's offshore oil production takes place in the Indian Ocean basin. The ocean is also a valuable source of fishing and mineral resources. Fishing in the Indian Ocean now accounts for almost 15% of the total world production. The region also comprises some of the world's fastest growing nations. The geostrategic and economic position of the Indian Ocean compel major powers such as United States, Australia, Japan, United Kingdom, India and China to seek stakes in the security of the IUR. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union wanted direct access to the IUR. Now China is looking for the same. The rise of China across the maritime region has compelled nations, including India, to reshape their maritime strategies. Realizing the virtue of India's geographical location at the heart of the Indian Ocean, the Indian government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, has laid out a comprehensive framework for India's engagement in its maritime neighborhood. India is preparing to take a larger responsibility for securing the Indian Ocean and promoting regional mechanisms for collective security and economic integration. As a part of this endeavor, India is rebuilding its relationship with the littoral countries of Indian Ocean. Our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji himself has visited a number of countries uh, for strengthening its bilateral multilateral relations. To present government through its security and growth for all in this region, that means Sagar vision, aims at enhancing capacity to safeguard land and maritime territories and interests, deepening economic and security cooperation in the littoral, promotion collective action to deal with natural disasters and maritime threats like piracy, terrorism, and other non-state actors working towards sustainable regional development through enhanced collaboration and engaging with countries beyond our shores with the aim of building greater trust and promoting respect for maritime rules, norms, and peaceful resolution of disputes along the IUR. Regional cooperation along with the Indian Ocean region has been a key feature of Indian foreign policy. India, as the founding member of regional organizations like Indian Ocean Rim Association for Regional Cooperation and BIMSTEC, is also carrying out its effort for promoting economic and technical cooperation, including expansion of trade investment in the Indian Ocean region. In the sphere of infrastructure and economic development, India is investing and assisting in the development of maritime infrastructure in countries like Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Iran, Indonesia, Thailand, and many more. In the strategic sphere of India and Mauritius, in 2015 had signed the MOU to improve air and sea facilities at the Agalega Island, beside having listening post and radar facility in Madagascar and a coastal surveillance radar in Seychelles. In 2018, India secured access to facilities at the port city of Duqm in Oman for Indian Air Force and Indian Navy. India has also upgraded its joint command at Andaman Nicobar Islands. China, for some time now, through its aggressive moves, is trying to advance its strategic interests in the region, particularly by gaining access to military bases and strategic posts by employment illiberal economic practices. In order to counter the military presence of China along with the threat of other non-state actors, India is carrying out regular bilateral and multilateral naval exercises with other littoral countries of Indian Ocean. Besides this, India, along with Japan, Australia, and the United States of America, is cooperating closely through the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Quad to contain the growing Chinese presence in IOR. With the outbreak of Wuhan pandemic in early 2020, India has been instrumental in providing humanitarian help in the littoral countries of Indian Ocean region by supplying medicines, vaccines, and other medical, non-medical equipments, thus strengthening its ties with the countries of this region. The vaccine diplomacy of India has been a major success, uplifting India's position in this region. It is essential to mention that the present political crisis in Afghanistan is going to have an impact over the security aspect of Indian Ocean region, and a holistic analysis and assessment of the subsequent events in Afghanistan and its impact over IOR are needed to be taken into consideration. The Indian Ocean has always been significant in the academic endeavor of Institute of Social and Cultural Studies, which since its inception is carrying out meaningful research, disquisition, publication on various aspects of Indian Ocean region. In March 2015, Institute of Social and Cultural Studies organized a 3-day international conference on India and the Indian Ocean, renewing the maritime trade and civilizational linkages at Bhubaneswar, Odisha. In February 2016, Institute, along with Jawaharlal Nehru Rajakiya Mahavidyalaya, Port Blair, and supported by Andaman and Nicobar Joint Command, organized a 2-day conference titled Geopolitics and Maritime Security in the Indian Ocean and Indian Perspective. In subsequent years of 2017-18, India organized 2 international conferences at Nairobi, Kenya. The present webinar is a part of that ongoing academic endeavor to explore the various aspects of Indian Ocean region. I hope that the present academic deliberation by distinguished scholars will enlighten you on various important and emerging issues related to Indian Ocean. I thank all the participants who have joined the program and hope the program will achieve its desired aim. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for your welcome address. I would now like to request our guest of honor, Honorable Minister of Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, for his address. Thank you, sir.
Konkona, I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Thank you. Shri Arindam Mukherjee, Director, Institute of Social and Cultural Studies. Dr. Shakti Sinhaji, Honorary Director, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Policy Research and International Studies. Professor Suhas Pednekar, Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, my greetings to all of you. I express my gratitude to Institute of Social and Cultural Studies for inviting me to address this august gathering of academicians and intellectuals who will deliberate on a topic which holds prime importance in India's strategic thinking, Indian Ocean security challenges and strategies. I am happy to know that ISCS undertakes research on social culture and has been conducting seminars, symposium, and conferences to promote social and national integration and further international understanding. Oceans have long determined the history of nations. The access to ancient maritime routes, its safety and openness have influenced the shifting fault lines in the geopolitics. So also it is with the Indian Ocean, where much of India's history has been contoured by the ocean that surrounds part of our land. Coming from the state of Odisha, we have grown up with stories of people from across the ocean with whom our ancestral from the textile background to spice to veterinars. Our mythologies, languages, religions, and architecture have spilled into each other in ways that have not yet been fully understood or explored thanks to our vibrant maritime trade. For instance, the word of mother in Bahasa Indonesia is bu, which is bow in Odia for us. Much before the European and Chinese sailed out for trade, we were using sea route for trade and cultural exchange. We still celebrate these links in Odisha in way to annual Bali Yatra festival or the Boito Bandhan festival held for 5 days around the month of November. On a full moon day called Kartik Purnima in November, the people of Odisha, earlier known as Kalinga and Utkal, float miniature paper boats symbolically marking the beginning of the sailing sessions and celebrating the state's vibrant past of maritime trade with the island of Java, Sumatra and Bali. Our interactions over centuries have extended beyond Indonesia to include expressions of shared heritage and cultural heritage that are dotted across the Indo-Pacific region and find expression stands of everyday life of the people. The shared living history of Hindus and Buddhist traditions is also engraved in glorious structures like the Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia. We are richer for the existence of such diversity. Our Archaeological Survey of India did a wonderful job in contributing to restoring the structure. I am happy to share that there were many Odia workers in that team. To cite another instance of our proximity owing to our vibrant maritime trade historically, the symbol of lion, which is of the vital importance among the Sinhalese, is equally revered among us, the Odias. Narasimha, or the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, as half man and half lion, is worshipped in Odisha and is seen in many temple sculptures. However, ocean not only connect us to the past with ramification of the present, but also hold an important key to our future, both from a development and the security perspective. The ocean is the lifeline for the global commerce, and since 90% of India's trade and energy sources come via ocean, the stability of the water routes is a crucial imperative for our own security and growth apart from a philosophical commitment to promoting peace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji aptly describes ocean as the common heritage from the humankind and a lifeline for the planet's future. It is also the threat where most of the geopolitics between the big and the small powers. Therefore, Prime Minister Modi has redefined India's approach towards Indian Ocean region, IOR, to ensure peace, security and sustainable development for all the stakeholders through a cooperative framework. The Modi government believes in reaching out to all friendly nations to renew and deepen strategic partnership in IOR. The IOR has significant potential in military, economic capabilities and the blue economy to ensure inclusive growth and substantial job creation. The government is advancing a comprehensive agenda of regional cooperation through Indian Ocean Rim Association, which further not only better security components but also emphasize the development of a blue economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has time and again emphasized his vision for the IOR, especially in the 2015 with the initiation of the concept of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, inclusive Indo-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. This brings together both security and development dimensions. The emergence of Indo-Pacific represents a new strategic reality of 21st century that places significant importance on the India as a key player in the region. India's own Sagarmala program, a 120 billion initiative to upgrade and further develop the country's coastal and maritime infrastructure, is built around an emphasis on the blue economy with elements like port modernization, port link industrialization, coastal community development, and connectivity. We have also been forging cooperation around the blue economy with our neighbors, ASEAN, Australia, and Japan, African partners, and BRICS. India's participation in the quadripartite partnership with Japan, US, and Australia holds great significance in the spirit of protecting the global commons. Prime Minister Modi earlier this month at the United Nations Security Council high-level open debate laid our 5 principles on the issue of maritime security. Removing barriers from legitimate maritime trade, this vision is of a safe and secure, stable maritime domain where we also respect the rights of each other's sailors. So there is an inclusive ethos to maritime trade. The settlement of maritime dispute must be peaceful and on the basis of international law only, which will generate mutual trust and confidence. A collective effort to face natural disasters and maritime threats created by non-state actors like piracy. Preservation of maritime environment and maritime resources. India has launched an ambitious deep ocean mission with this end in mind. Encouraging responsible maritime connectivity, freedom of unimpeded commerce, and secure navigation will play a dominant role in the ensuring prosperity and the destiny of the planet. India stands for a free, open, and inclusive regions which will ensure to the common object of the progress and prosperity for all stakeholders involved. I'm sure the ideas that emerge from the deliberations of this international web-based conference will enhance our understanding on the matter. I look forward to its outcome and thank you again for inviting me today. I wish you all luck. Thank you, friends.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your remarks and valuable observation on the proposed issue. Thank you so much once again. I would now like to request our keynote speaker, Dr. Shakti Sinha, to share his observations on the proposed issue.
Thank you very much, Konkana. Just heard the Honorable Minister describing in great detail various challenges and the initiatives taken. The Vice Chancellor of Mumbai University, Professor Pendekar, my old friend Dharmendra Mukherjee, and his team at the Institute of Social and Cultural Studies. For the past few years, as Dharmendra described, has been such a lot of work in it. And of course, the Jawaharlal Nehru Rajkiya Mahavidyalaya, which I first knew in 1983 as just the Rajkiya Mahavidyalaya or Government College Port Blair. It's good to see them also here. It's an institution, as I said, I've been involved with off and on for a long time. Now, Arindam has laid out a fair amount of challenges, so that makes my life a little easier. Now, historically, and when I say historically, I mean over the last 2.5 centuries, it's the continental threats that has formed the focus of Indian security thinking. And therefore, when we look at security challenges and strategies, till fairly recently, it was that. So now that we are broadening into the ocean, it is a very good sign. And the fact that today's seminar, you're drawing in people from South Africa, from Singapore, other parts, Maldives, and of course, I can see my old friend, Ambassador Tonson Than from Hanoi Diplomatic Academy, also present. Ambassador, good to see you. Very good to see you. Now, we should understand, and again, as a student of history, and I strongly believe that to study IR, one should have a good grounding in history. Historically, if we notice, the maritime domain has been really the crucial space in establishing new and emerging powers. They have shaped regional and global dynamics, which has somehow escaped us in the recent past. If you look at the Spanish Empire, the first global empire in modern times, the Portuguese, the Dutch, who incidentally exchanged the island of Manhattan, New Amsterdam as they called it, for a small spice island in what is now Indonesia. They felt that that spice island in Indonesia in the 16th century was of more value than what is now Manhattan, and they exchanged with the British for. But that was the maritime domain, and of course the British Empire. And the British Empire would not have been where it is would not have become what it became, but for the maritime domain, but for the complete mastery over the seas. Even today, when you look at China's expanding footprint, not just security, but China's expanding footprint generally, it is through the waters. The Eurasian landmass is important, so in that sense, I'm not discounting Mackindla. But I think Mahan had a very valid point when you look at what is happening in the world. China first expanded in what is called the Western Pacific, the first island chain, then going beyond, then moving southwards, and now into the Indian Ocean. Now, when this thing started happening in the beginning, Indians were the first to raise it, but we were laughed at. Possibly one, because we didn't articulate it very strongly, and we articulated the sense of panic, the string of pearls theory. But actually, a decade down the road, people realized that we were quite right. I think Rindam had mentioned the fall of the situation in Afghanistan, and I study Afghanistan a fair amount. I think this should make us, we have been reorienting our thinking, but not always. We must now seriously look at the world, not in a standard map of the north up and south down, but turn it around. Minister spoke of the rich maritime traditions of Odisha, in fact, of the both eastern and the western coast. After all, even Vasco da Gama at Zanzibar picked up an Indian pilot, Majid, who took his ship from there to Kochi, to Calicut, just not the Calicut Bayport. The fact is that we have been seafaring throughout. We had one external military expedition, so it's an isolated case, again trade related, but otherwise we had a range. But because we focused on invasions from the north, we have somehow lost that. But now with the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the end of the Cold War, post-Cold War, relative global calm. Now there were a lot of localized wars, I'm not discounting that. But globally there was a global calm, the seas were open. And US's unipolar moment in that sense has now come to an end. If not, it has been very, very severely challenged. So maritime security, which we had removed it from outside our strategic concerns, strategic relevance, strategic interest, must come back. Now this has started changing. To be fair, and Arindam again listed, so fortunately that makes my life easier on sort of military engagements that we have done for the listing post and Agalega and other places, so I don't have to go into that. We've also, in one sense, diplomatically also stepped up our effort. One was the Act East, of course, but going beyond the Act East, the fact that the Ministry of External Affairs created the Indian Ocean Region Division specifically. Earlier on, there was a division in MEA called BSM, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Maldives. So same joint secretary who looked after Bangladesh also looked at Maldives. You can imagine, of course, yes, scarce resources, but you can see how irrelevant and how incongruous that was. Even when we set up the Indian Ocean Division, we of course brought in Sri Lanka and Maldives, etc. But places like Mauritius and Seychelles in that sense took some more time. And we have to understand that the island nations of the Indian Ocean, Mauritius we all are familiar with, but Seychelles and Comoros, Madagascar. Now Madagascar, Seychelles, Comoros, Mauritius technically are part of Africa. Fine, that's for political purposes of African Union. But in the strategic sense, they're very much key to the Indian Ocean stabilization. So look at security challenges, which I'll just talk about. These are the kind of resources available which we'll have to really work on and not ignore. And in fact, really work on it. Now, one of the key things happening in this period was we always saw ourselves, India, as security provider of this region, from Malacca to Aden and all that. But one, we were always under-resourced in military sense. Look at the Navy share the military budget. Till the early 90s, it was very low. It then started picking up. But what seems to be happening is that China obviously does not want India to be very strong in the Indian Ocean region. So in addition to other reasons for provoking India, literally provoking India and really challenging India, the whole aim is to get you bogged down looking north and looking west on the land side in China and Pakistan. So that relatively speaking, the focus that we are trying to give to the Navy gets diverted. But as I mentioned, what is happening in Afghanistan demonstrates to us that our abilities to affect development in Afghanistan, as an example, is limited. In any case, it's of limited interest to India. Sympathetically, humanitarian-wise, as somebody who's lived in Afghanistan, works in Afghanistan, writes in Afghanistan, has a girlfriend, I'm upset. But if I look at it as an Indian strategic point of view, yes, Afghanistan could be a site for Pakistani-sponsored terrorist groups. Absolutely, that danger is there. But that is a danger we've lived with, and I think proactively we may have to do something to reduce that danger. But other than that, I really don't see very much changing in their security calculus. And therefore, we must again, now we saw ourselves, as I said, to go back to what I was saying, as the net security provider, etc. But we did not deploy enough resources. We didn't do that. What did China do? China, the PLA Navy could not operate very much in the Indian Ocean. So they started by the anti-piracy operations on the coast of Somalia in parallel with the European Union U4 operations. It did that. Then it dangled a string of pearls. It dangled financial investments in infrastructure in this entire region. We're all aware of Hambantota, obviously, so I won't go into details. But the way they structured it, the way they fed into the national leaderships, Maldives, as you know, for some time we thought that that is the end. The Maldives is so close to us. Seychelles still is an issue with us. In Mauritius, the Chinese have become active also, very, very active. So they started offering these massive financial packages, which were back-ended in terms of payments. You don't notice it, because Hambantota approved, it wasn't so back-ended. And as an aside, I wrote in a piece that I wrote for ISCS journal, and I pointed out that it's a very complex debt trap. It's not a simple debt trap. Yes, Sri Lanka was forced to give up Hambantota port to a Chinese on a long-term 1990 lease for a pittance. There was no open bidding for it. Only 2 Chinese firms bid for it and one got it. The fact is that the loans on Hambantota are still to be paid back. So that loans have not been written off or adjusted, because the sheer volume of debt that now Sri Lanka owes China is shooting up. So overall, it does look very big. So people say, why are you worried about debt? It's only so many percentage. But look at the growth of Sri Lankan debt from the year 2004 to 2019, last year for which we have figures. You can see steep rise in commercial debt, sovereign commercial debt, and most of those are Chinese. So, but upfront, the port in Bangladesh want to build, Govt too well known. So they brought in this, and we were slow. Hambantota we rejected actually. It was first offered to us. We rejected it, to be fair. Obviously, we could not match Sri Lanka Chinese directly in offering incentives, but we also ignored them politically. Till Prime Minister Modi visited Sri Lanka, Maldives, actually even Nepal and Bhutan, there had been no top level, no Prime Minister visits to these countries for decades. There was one to Mauritius by Prime Minister Vajpayee in 1998, but that is it. We have not really engaged these countries. So I think the fact is that economically we could not manage it. Politically we ignored it. And then the way the Chinese could build up their naval assets. I'm talking about the Chinese submarine not once but twice at Colombo. That suddenly made us realize we kept talking about building, and Sagar is a very good example where attempt has been made to force the issue, but to get the all of government approach to it and to get the private sector involved in it. You cannot develop the blue economy without the private sector. I think that is something which, looking at the challenges facing us, kind of strategies, that something we are doing, but how we go forward is important. Because let's be clear, we will never be able to match the Chinese in terms of the financial inducements. They may be, as I said, traps, but for the moment, the inducements, we really can't do that. So we have to work with partners in offering other options. Plus, and I'll give you an example, we'll be careful in how we project ourselves. Till the Chinese forced us into Quad, and I must say it was the Chinese responsibility, it forced us into Quad, and we changed Quad from the American idea of burden sharing on security to becoming a strategy for containing China, which Quad was not meant to be. It was China's aggressive actions. Similarly, we should not be forcing these countries, smaller countries, island countries, into a China or India options. Many of them realize they need both. So don't make it too binary. Work as a good development partner along with others. Give them political support that they need in international bodies, through capacity buildings, etc. So develop a relationship which is not transactional and which is not focused on negating China. As I said, on one-on-one we will not be able to negate China, but your values and your support actually have much greater purchase in all these places than the Chinese ones. Much greater purchase. And therefore you have to build on those assets that really. But yes, for us, partnership is important. The Govt has been mentioned, and I have to say that Govt is very important for us. Much as till Shangri-La Dialogue's statement by the Prime Minister Modi, where he articulated Indian vision of the Indo-Pacific. We got forced into it because we did not want to be in a containment structure of China, but now it is there. Work with Govt on it, and they have tremendous capacities. So we have some skills, Japanese have some, Australians have some, Americans have. Package it as per the needs of that country. So it's needed in Kenya or Seychelles, may not be needed in Sri Lanka or Maldives. So you have to prepare those packages for those countries specifically. France is already very keen on it, involve France in it. France is possibly the only muscular country left in Europe. Get them involved. British also not deploying. Okay, fine with that. So far from wanting the outsiders away from Indian Ocean, now that the Chinese are in, we need these people to work together, develop partnership. But do remember that ultimately your greatest focus will be on the Indian Ocean. South China Sea, you must stand up with the Quad, otherwise they won't stand up with you. But your ability to affect events are very limited. So on the land side, we understand you have to be on your own. On the sea side, you cannot be on your own. The sea is simply too expansive, simply too many locations, and simply too many players, 28 players that you mentioned. We really need partnerships for this going ahead. So let me end by saying that creating a favorable environment is not easy. We have to work on it. One point in speaking I missed out. Our neighbors, smaller neighbors particularly, always keep complaining that your markets are not easily accessible to us. India, of course, runs a trade deficit with the world, but with the neighbors, we run a trade surplus. Help your neighbors sell more in India. Make them look at India as a very valuable export destination. Because the more they are tied into selling into India, the more they value the relationship with India. So you need to give them economic, political, security, diplomatic, all kinds of relationship, multifaceted, all of government approach involving the private sector. Because as I said, if you want to change the climate of this innovation region, if you want to handle the security challenges better, your strategy cannot be a single strategy, but it has to be this broad strategy based on partnership with larger entities like Quad, but more important, partnerships with these countries in the Indian Ocean region. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. As I said, ISCS has been very good work in this subject, and we have such a stellar panel today. So I'm sure that at the end of the day, we'll be much better off. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your interesting observation, as always, for appraising us with such information and, the history. Thank you so much, sir, for also attending and being with us. It's an honor to have you. Now I would like to request Shri Gautam Chakraborty, former Security Advisor, Kolkata Port Trust, which is now Shama Prasad Mukherjee Port Trust, Honorary Advisor Heritage and Honorary Editor of Sagar Port, ISCS India, to please share the details of the ISCS's e-digest on Sagar Port. It's a privilege for the Institute to be launching its e-digest on Sagar Port on such an interesting and exclusive event like today. So I would like to request sir to please take it over, and also our associate to please share the PowerPoint with our distinguished guest and the panelists, please.
Namaste and a very good morning to all of you. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank you very much. There have been some illuminating speeches preceding this, which have already brought out the significance of the Indian Ocean in terms of security, uh, with a capital S, I should say, and of course, trade. The quarterly digest, specifically on India's oceanic concerns, and more specifically on the Indian Ocean region, has been aptly named Sagar Course. That will familiarly reverberate with the Sagar initiative of the government of India. The importance of the oceanic concerns have become for a country like India, with a coastline of about 7,500 kilometers, 13 major ports, and currently I think nearly 200 minor ports. It has become an aspect of seminal importance. We share the landline with 6 uh, nations, and the coastline directly with 1, but proximate to very highly sensitive multiple. This kind of challenge, the porosity and the vastness of both the borders, both waterline and land, is a concern that currently shows no signs of abating. In fact, it is on the curve is rising very steeply, as we can see. The history of the region throbs with a kind of maritime rivalry that, in the sense of modern history, begins with the intrusion of European powers into the Indian Ocean. That has already been elaborated in great detail by our preceding speakers. The fact that our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has been a more frequent traveller than any other previous Prime Minister along the coastal nations, itself illustrates the importance of the region and what it commands for India as a potential blue economy, and for its overriding priority of security and integrity. The Indian Ocean region, I quote from somewhere where he has said this, the Indian Ocean region is one of my foremost policy priorities. Our approach is evident in our vision of Sagar, which stands for security and growth for all in the region. This is how he defined it, once again emphasizing on his vision of inclusivity. It is very important and one of our primary guiding principles, the way we are going to run the Sagar course. The fact that it is being launched along with the seminar on maritime security today is particularly important for me. I am more a practitioner of and less a theoretician on maritime security in the civilian sense, in view of my involvement in implementation of the International Maritime Organization's international security regime for ports. I have gone through it all since 2004. The government of India had implemented the scheme for all major ports with effect from 1st July 2004. That is nearly 17 years now. And I have seen through its successful implementation and maintenance in India's oldest and most strategically vulnerable port is the very first day. The recent events in Afghanistan have thrown into sharp focus the importance of a port like Chabahar, as you know, in Iran, and the fact that our government will be tasked now with amplified and broader concerns on the Arabian Sea also, and the emergent risks and how they can be mitigated on the maritime front. It poses a huge challenge for the government and calls for a more precise and concise and crisp articulation that we propose to do through the Sagar course. I think an oceanic digest at this crucial juncture will prove to be of worth and interest both for the Institute and those that have some familiarity with the activities of this emerging institute. Having said that much, I would now want to offer our honored guests and all participants a glimpse of what we intend to populate our pages with at the commencement stages. Of course, there is a gestation period for everything, and I hope It shall all crystallize with time. Here are some of the pages for a brief preview. These are some of the features. Our primary intent being presentation of a mixture of analysis and the current tide of events, with some of the best articles reproduced and originals invited. This is intended to be a quarterly issue, but of course we are also keeping an eye on the probability of bringing out special issues. With that, I request whoever is presenting the slides here to kindly come up with the first slide, please. Yes, that will be just a preview, the first page, if you like, of the Sagar codes to begin with. The editorial. Next slide, please. We are not going to read it out. To the editorial note. Yes, that's right. Here we outline the points, the major bullet points for the significance, laying out the significance of the IOR. We have already spoken about this in great detail. I will not read it out. Short is always beautiful. The next slide, please. Here, why we envisage, what we envisage, and what we intend to do with this articulation. This is clearly stated in this slide of ours. The next one, please. Yes, the nature of the contents. You can see some of the major features here that can interest some of the academics here who are present and have played a very important role and will be playing a very important role in future. We'll try to associate many of them who are already very important, writers and authors in their own right. Institutional and personal histories, that is very important. I think that has been understated in many of the digests that come up. I hope this can be done. We are having a great plan on this, a grand plan, as you say. Let's hope the pandemic allows us to do it. We're not very sure as yet. The history of the trade, the ports, shipping, immigration, decolonization, geopolitical cross-currents, environment. That is the spread of the fair. That is what you have on your palette right now, but this can increase, this can go down to certain specifics also in the days to come. The next segment is the news beam, just where we intend to bring around the currents to be very precise, how they unfold in terms of latest news concerning India and the policies that our government have been taking and the influence and the effect they have been creating or ripples they have been creating on the sea. The next point, please. The next slide. There are some articles, a la carte, we'll put them on. This might be reproduced, this might be invited. So that is that. The next one, please. Next slide. History. This will have a very important role in the digest, because we will come to certain points of history that have actually shaped international trade and how they have really, helped to configure the ports, maritime trade, and how India sees it for the future. These are very important aspects that will come up in our discussion. Yeah, the next slide, please. The next slide. We are coming to the end of it now. Yes, from the RAJPATH. This will be very specifically. This will have an emphasis on the governmental policies, the kind of efforts that the government have been taking since the last few years, and in the current scenario, we will have a special focus on this. The next point, next slide, please. Again, institution and individuals, I think we began with this. Let us see what we can do on this. This is a very, very vibrant subject. The next slide. This is just just a montage. The brief different activities of the institute, editorial desk, who are currently associated. We will associate more important personas here as time goes on. I think we have come to the end of it. Have I? Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks again to Honorable Minister our all respected guests, and all those viewing this program today. Thank you. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Shri Chakraborty, for introducing uh, Sagar Codes with our distinguished guests and the panelists who are present for today's international web-based conference. So it's an initiative by the Institute, and we look forward to attaining support from each one of you and making it successful in coming times. The details will also be shared with each one of you over mail and further communications. Okay. Anybody from University of Mumbai? Do we have Ma'am Anuradha with us?
So, Concora, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So, I believe there must be some network issue here in,
Okay,
and
so
I
on behalf
cannot.
of University of Mumbai, would you like to address it and so that we can take it forward?
So a very good morning to all dignitaries, Honorable Minister, all diplomats, delegates, intellectuals, and participants who have joined us today. So on behalf of University of Mumbai, I would like to convey that we are privileged and extremely happy to be part of this endeavor of the webinar on a very pertinent topic on Indian Ocean security concerns and strategies, the endeavor which has been taken by the Institute of Social and Cultural Studies, along with the collaboration of University of Mumbai and Jawaharlal Nehru Rajakiya Mahavidyalaya. And I take this opportunity to specifically thank Shri Arindam Mukherjee, Ms. Konkona Roy, and Siddhartha for their contribution. So once our team joins in, when the network is rectified, I'm sure Dr. Kharat will brief us and address the audience. Thank you very much for the association.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Majumdar, for your address. I think with this, we wrap up our inaugural session for the proposed day-long web-based conference on Indian Ocean security challenges and strategies. I would like to thank Honorable Minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhan for addressing the inaugural session, our Honorable Director Shri Arindam Mukherjee, our keynote speaker Dr. Shakti Sinha, and Sir Gautam Chakraborty from ISCS to acquaint and appraise the concept of, institutes e-digest on Sagar codes. As said, more will be communicated soon. Also, I would like to share that the conference itself would further be, shared with each one of you over YouTube and also through recording. So please do like and subscribe our YouTube channel, ISCS India. And thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor to have you here. So with this, we wrap up our inaugural session, and as scheduled, we would commence our first academic session on Indian Ocean, a stage for policy, power, and diplomacy at 12 p.m. sharp. Thank you so much, guests, for being with us. We look forward to have you all at 12 p.m. Thank you.